Hi, guys. There's a conversation happening in modern society that often turns hostile far too quickly. The debate between meat eaters and vegans or vegetarians. On the surface, it seems simple. One group eats animals, the other refuses to. But beneath that surface lies a much more complicated reality, one that often gets lost in the noise of internet arguments and moral accusations. The truth is that not everyone in either group thinks the same way. Some vegans and vegetarians see meat consumption as an ethical issue about animal suffering and environmental impact. Their position comes from compassion and a desire to reduce harm. But it's also important to acknowledge that not all vegans and vegetarians view meat eaters as villains. Many simply choose a different path for themselves and respect that others make different choices. However, there are also some voices, often the loudest online, that frame the issue in absolute moral terms. In those conversations, meat eaters are sometimes portrayed as cruel, ignorant, and uncaring about animal life. The problem with this view is that it overlooks a reality that many people who eat meat actually experience, a genuine awareness of the life behind their food. For many people, eating meat is not about indifference. It's about accepting a difficult truth of nature. Humans evolved as omnivores. For thousands of years, survival depended on both plants and animals. Hunting, fishing, and raising livestock were not just sources of food. They were part of a relationship with nature that required skill, respect, and responsibility. In older cultures, this relationship often came with rituals of gratitude. Hunters thanked the animal they killed. Communities used as much of the animal as possible, so nothing went to waste. The act of eating was not disconnected from the life that made it possible. In modern society, that connection has largely disappeared. Most people buy their food from a store. Meat arrives wrapped in plastic, already processed, far removed from the animal it once was. Because of that distance, it can seem as if meat eaters are thoughtless about where their food comes from. But that assumption isn't always true. There are many people who do think about it. Some pause before eating and recognize that a living creature died so they could survive. Some believe that the ethical way to eat meat is to do so with gratitude, not waste, and respect for the animal. For them, the moral responsibility is not to pretend the death didn't happen, but to acknowledge it. At the same time, there is another side to this conversation that often goes unspoken. Many meat eaters feel that vegans and vegetarians sometimes overlook the hidden cost of plant-based agriculture. Large-scale farming is not a harmless process. Fields have to be cleared, tilled, planted, and harvested using heavy machinery. In that process, countless small animals, moles, voles, mice, and other ground-dwelling creatures are killed. On top of that, pesticides are widely used to protect crops, which leads to death of massive numbers of insects and can poison the surrounding ecosystem. So, while a plant-based lifestyle aims to reduce animal suffering, it does not eliminate it entirely. Life is still lost, just in ways that are less visible. From this perspective, some meat eaters feel misunderstood or even unfairly judged. They see themselves not as the only contributors to harm, but as part of a broader system where all forms of food production involves some level of sacrifice. This doesn't this doesn't invalidate vegan or vegetarian choices. In fact, those choices can come from the same place, a desire to respect life. The difference is simply how people respond to that desire. Some decide the most ethical path is to avoid animal products entirely. Others decide that eating animals can still be ethical if it is done with awareness, gratitude, and restraint. The real problem begins when the conversation loses its nuance. When meat eaters assume all vegans are judgmental extremists, the discussion collapses into stereotypes. When vegans assume all meat eaters are careless or cruel, the same thing happens. Both sides end up arguing against caricatures rather than real people. But reality is more complicated. There are vegans who quietly live by their principles without attacking anyone. There are meat eaters who actively think about the life behind their food and try to honor it in their own way. There are also people on both sides who are loud, angry, and convinced they hold the only morally acceptable position. The challenge for society is not deciding which side is morally superior. The challenge is learning to recognize the humanity and intentions behind different choices. Because the truth is that many people, regardless of what they eat, are trying to answer the same question. What does it mean to respect life? Some answer that question by refusing to consume animals. Others answer it by acknowledging the sacrifice involved in eating them. Both responses come from people thinking deeply about their place in the natural world. And perhaps the most constructive path forward isn't forcing everyone into one answer, but encouraging more people to actually think about the question in the first place. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.